Good afternoon, everyone. Just kind of checking where people were located from and looking at the chat. But welcome to the book club. And we're going to be talking the scheduling for personalized competency-based education. So this is the new book. And when we mean new book, we actually don't even have this yet. It's first day was Friday. So we're waiting to see these hard copies that are coming in. So this was very good timing when it comes to being able to get a good audience to talk about this. But before we get started into the book, we want to introduce ourselves. So my name is Doug Finn.
I'm Michelle Finn.
And so as you can see, we are not in the same room, but we are in the same house. We met each other when we were teaching up in Alaska in 2004, where we were very lucky to have worked in a school district up there in Bering Strait School District that was really wholeheartedly doing this and personalized competency-based education. We call it standards-based grading at the time, but this is where we really put a lot of thought into being able to work through this and formulating things and trying things and working things out. And then since then, we've moved from Alaska. That's where we met. We got married, and then we moved to Maine. And so we've been here since 2008. And Michelle, if you want to tell where we've been since then.
Well, we moved from a windswept island in Alaska to another windswept island off the coast of Maine, where we co-taught. I know it's not for everybody to co-teach with your spouse in a one-room schoolhouse, but we did that for 4 years and taught kindergarten through 8th grade. We implemented the same principles that we had learned in the Bering Strait School District and taught those kids in that one-room schoolhouse and saw great success and felt like, we really believe in this. We really want to follow through with this and started presenting on competency-based education back in, what was it, Doug, 2008,
Yeah, 2009.
9?
Yeah.
So, yep. So we've been doing that. I've been in the classroom back and forth because I can't stay away from the kids. Yeah, so between the two of us, we've taught kindergarten through 12th grade in our careers. So,
and we've taken a lot of that practical application to this approach that's there. So this is how we've kind of designed the session. It goes till 3:30. We want to have breakout sessions. So Michelle's going to take a session. I'm going to take a session, and we're going to break it up by topics. They're going to be about 20 minutes each. So you'll have some choice in being able to determine which one. And we're going to do 2 sessions of those. And we're going to be just hitting a few topics. Now, obviously, we wrote a book on this. So, an hour and 15 minutes, you can't really cover everything. So we're here to just kind of give some kind of thought-provoking ideas and get some discussions going and being able to work through that. So this is the plan that we're going to be working through it. But before we jump into that, we kind of have to kind of go back to the framework that we're building off of. And so when Michelle and I were just getting out of the classroom and started working for Marzano Resources, we were asked to join in with Dr. Marzano and Jennifer Norford, who's a really great researcher. And they asked us to participate in creating this handbook for personalized competency-based education. And so we were definitely the ones that, kind of take it to the classroom saying, I got a kid sitting in front of me. What do? I got 30 kids I got to do something with. So we started with this, and we really kind of broke it down into 7 areas, really 6 main areas, and then a transition component to this. And so working through these are components that we feel should be well established, or at least well thought out, to be able to have an effective competency-based approach to this. And the first one is really content. When we were back in Alaska, we literally had to make our standards. We took standards from a different school district, and because the state of Alaska didn't have standards at the time, and we called it standards-based grading. And essentially, it's just coming down to, we need to know what kids know and what they don't know. It comes right down to that basic statement. And so the content really needs to be clarified. Then the component of student agency, getting students being more involved in the process instead of being done to. getting them involved in, in getting their voice, getting some of the choices that are in there, differentiating instruction, all those things, that we want teachers to do when it comes to different strategies, approaching in there. Those are all components that are a part of it. Then in the instruction itself is, how do I teach kids of different needs within the same group, and working through that. And then measurement. This is a part where I work with a lot of school districts around the country and throughout the world, that they want to jump straight into a standards-based report card. And it's not about a standards-based report card. That's kind of the end product kind of thing to this. There's a lot to it. So how are we actually measuring learning in comparison to that? And so those first four of content, agency, instruction, and measurement are really major foundational components. Then notice the fifth one, scheduling. We need to accommodate for student learning. And that really, from our perspective of working, was a large gap that was not happening in effective or schools that were trying to implement personalized competency-based education. And then working on reporting, of the, going into report cards. And then 7 was, how do you transition? How do you shift from a standards or a traditional system into a more competency-based system, and working through that? We knew, if we wanted to hit every one of these topics effectively, it would be an encyclopedia of information. So our thinking is that, hey, you know what? Let's turn this one into a book, because it really has a lot of components to it. It's very complicated. There's lots of variables involved in this process. And so we try to lay it out in a more, kind of concrete approach to being able to solve very large issues, with trying to be able to organize a lot of students based on their needs that's there. So jumping from this kind of 7 design questions that we had, really diving into scheduling. And that's where the nucleus of this book was really created, and working through that. Now, this book that comes in is really designed with an introduction and then 6 chapters. And through this, the introduction is really transitioning to it so that you're effective, so that you even have the proper things in place before you actually get to the component of scheduling. Then really traditional compared to personalized competency-based education, student data. That's going to be one of the breakout sessions that I'm going to be doing. And then Michelle's going to be doing a breakout for transitioning into personalized competency-based education. And then really that overview of what are all the variables, you can't name them all, but what are a lot of the variables that we have to deal with when it comes to scheduling. That's getting into chapter 3. And then chapter 4 and 5 are discussing 2 different approaches to creating a schedule, either horizontally scheduling or vertically scheduling. And those 2 are going to be combined into into the second breakout sessions that are going to be coming up. And then the last one is, we know that a lot of teachers are wanting to do this and wanting to organize their students based on their learning, but unfortunately the school or the district does not move as quickly as they want, or it has no intentions of moving towards that. So we wanted to have a component where you're implementing in a standalone classroom so that you can have some success being able to do that. And Michelle is going to be taking that section on the second breakout sessions that we're going to be doing there. So that's kind of how we framed the book and working through this. And ultimately, the challenge that people run into is, you as a teacher or an administrator are telling teachers to say, you know what, you need to differentiate instruction, teach to the students' needs. But all of those students are in the classroom because they're the same age. You haven't changed that variable. They're all 6th graders, or they're all 3rd graders, or all 10th graders. And so then you're sitting there saying, okay, teacher, I want you to differentiate instruction and do magic. Well, what ends up happening is you've got teachers come to you saying, I got 30 kids doing 30 different things. And they're like, this is insane. And they're like, I got too much content to cover, because the research out there is showing that there's a potential of 5 years of range of content that a class of students could be needing in any particular topic that's there. So if I'm a 6th grade teacher, I could be teaching 4th grade up to 9th grade in content if I was truly to try to teach to their needs on a particular topic. That's pretty difficult for teachers to be able to do. So this scheduling comes in to try to create a better environment for the students and for the teachers to be able to work through this. And then you come into the component of, there's just not enough resources available. So if I'm a sixth grade teacher and I have to teach some fourth grade stuff, I may not have a fourth grade book or all of the manipulatives or the different things that are necessary for that that's there. And so these are the issues that really come up. And so the focus or the purpose of this book is to create an instructional time for students to work on what they need to learn. And it sounds pretty basic, like, yeah, that would be really great if we could have that. But a traditional system is really designing it where we're getting kids into a classroom to make sure that this teacher covers what they're supposed to cover. That's what pacing guides are for, is to make sure the teacher gets through the content in a year. Now, I sure hope the kids learn it, but it's designed this way. So we're flipping on its head to say we're designing it around the student's needs, then assigning teachers to it. So by doing that, we reduce the range of topics that teachers need to be covering within a classroom. So if I have a group of students and all of those students have similar needs, then my range within that topic is much narrower and I can focus my attention on that. There could be more whole group instruction instead of the 30 kids doing 30 different things at different times. And then we have students moving at an appropriate pace. That's one thing that's kind of a pet peeve in competency-based education is students moving at their own pace. Well, I've had parents come to me and say, I've got a kid who doesn't move at all, and you're telling me I can let him move at his own pace? And it's like, no, we want to make sure there's an appropriate challenge level for our students and that they're moving forward. So we're designing the instruction to be that way. Now, with that being said, there are a lot of factors that play into this. This was probably the most difficult component of writing this book, is that it was impossible to put in every single variable that's there. So there is no single way of doing this, like follow this step by step by step by step. We're giving guidelines because your school district or school in working with scheduling is going to have a different number of teachers, just that alone. I worked in a very small school where you were the one science teacher. Well, you know what? You're going to have to do a lot of differentiating of instruction. But if I'm at a school with 2,500 students, I've got a lot of teachers that can devote to that content area, and I can have many of them teaching in the same period or at the same time working throughout the day. So there's actually an advantage in a component of having a large school there. So just that first bullet right there of number of teachers, that plays a big role on how you go about scheduling. Physical layout of classrooms. If you're in the northern states, you don't have those large campuses like they do in Florida or in California or in Arizona, where you're walking across and kids take time to get from A to B. That's there. Specials. This is a huge one for elementary teachers. When your special teacher is available, if you're sharing one from building to building, that right there is going to drive your schedule, because you only have that art teacher for a short period of time on this day. So you have to design everything around that period of time. And so there are real constraints out there in the world that we have to work with, but those are things that we're trying to take into consideration. Special education. This is a huge one. There's push-ins, there's pull-outs when teachers are going on there. The IEP that is designed for a student, that has to be followed. So in the IEP, if it specifically says they have to be with aged appropriate students for content, then they have to be there because that's what the IEP says. And so we are not going against that. I have run into the case where actually the IEP did not help the student because they were put into an age appropriate group, but that age appropriate group was on a higher content level that was there. And so there's some interesting workings when it comes to IEPs and working through that. Student teacher ratios. And the idea with that is, you don't want one classroom that has 5 kids in it, another classroom that has 35 kids in it. So you have to have some sort of equity between the different classrooms. And that's brought up in different ways in different conversations throughout the school. And then the last bullet is on and on and on and on, because your unique culture, your unique resources that are available to you really plays a large part in how all of these parts will come together. And so we've designed this book to be more of a guideline to say, hey, listen, you need to determine how many numbers of teachers, then that will tell you that you can work this way. And so we are really trying to shake up the system. A lot of people have come to me and said, wait, but what about, and I'm like, yep, you're right, that would have to get rethought. But that's much more of the traditional thinking. If you ever come into the phrase of, well, we've always done it this way, well, if that's the case, If that's the case, then that may not just be the best answer. Just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean that's the best way to do it. That's there. So we really are kind of pushing the boundaries with this to try to make people think more about the information. And then most importantly is, keep in mind, scheduling is not just its own isolated thing that's out there. It really is involved when starting to get through the components of personalized competency-based education, is that content is clearly clarified. We understand what it is. We know where it's going. Agency is developed and functioning so that when we do need students to start working independently or working in small groups, they have the capacity to do that. That's another issue when working with this, is that teachers are like, okay, guys, we're all going to work in small groups. And they all start working in small groups and it falls apart. At the end of the week, the teacher comes in and says, oh my gosh, we didn't learn anything this week. This whole competency-based thing's a joke. And I'm like, well, the way you did it, it kind of is, because you don't have the structures in place for them to be able to support themselves in this process. So those need to be developed. And then again, we're teaching to standards-based instruction, so that here's a standard, they're learning it, they're proficient, whatever your criteria is that you've determined for the different standards. And then measurement. The more a school has been scoring to proficiency and recording to proficiency, the better you are off in your scheduling. Because one of the first sessions that I'm going to be doing is student data. Most schools that want to go to competency-based scheduling, they don't have the foundation to even schedule the students appropriately, because they don't really know what they don't know. When it comes to that, because all the traditional grades don't help. When they come in and say 6th grade math, I got a B+, what on earth does that mean? It doesn't tell me anything. I don't put all the kids with B+ in one class, because there's some areas that you don't know, and maybe your behaviors have been really helping you or hurting you in being able to determine that B+ and working through that. So these components should really be focused and need to really be kind of in place and working through that. All right, so now we're going to kind of set the stage for our first breakout sessions that's here. So what we're going to do is talk about the traditional education versus personal, really the transition, making sure that those components are in place and following through with your strategic planning, and then student data, going through the different components of data and how you can start looking at it comparison to a traditional system that's there. All right, so this is how the protocol is going to work. We're going to have 2 breakouts. Everybody, depending on if you have updates in Zoom, we've actually just figured this out about an hour ago. If you've updated your Zoom, then you will have this feature that's there. But we've got Natalie in the background to be able to support getting into groups. But when the breakout rooms get opened up, it's going to be inviting you to say you can go into either number 1 or number 2. Then you're going to have a choice. We'll go over the topics for each of those. And then you're going to pick 1 or 2. And you're going to have to go on that screen where you see the little number in the right part of the small screen where tells you how many participants are in there. It'll either say 0 or a number. You hover over that and it'll say join. And then you click on that and you'll be able to join that group. And then Michelle will be doing her presentation. I'll be doing mine. We'll do it for 20 minutes. Then at the end, we're going to break, and then everyone will come back to the whole group, tell you about the next 2 topics that we're going to go in. You'll get some choices that's in there. I'm seeing a total of about 27 people that's in here, and that includes us 3. So there's 24 people. Seems like a good group. We'll be able to get some more questions and chats during those breakout times and working through that. So with that kind of being said, we're going to go over real quick on what the different breakouts are, and then we will break out to the rooms. All right, so Michelle.
So for this session, I'm going to talk about the different components that you would want to include in your strategic plan, thinking about phases, ramping up phases. Generally speaking, it's a 3 to 5 year transition to really fully implement all of these components. So we'll go over some different sample plans. We'll talk about some pros and cons and some of the struggles that we have seen over the years. And how to overcome some of those pieces. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to just kind of chat about where people are at, where their interest level is, where their implementation level is, and maybe some of the successes that they've seen or some of the challenges that they've been through.
All right. And then, so that's the description for one. So if you want to have your choice to go to session one, that's your description. This is choice number two, is really talking about student data. And really, I'm just going to be showing up some charts about, here's traditional data. Here is what we would kind of refer to as standards-based data that's there. Again, big topic. We're just going to be kind of just hitting the surface of it when it's there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our breakouts. Natalie will open up the breakout sessions, and then you'll have a choice to be able to go to number one, which is transitions, number two, which is student data. Then we'll be in there for 20 minutes. We'll come back here, and then we'll tell you what the next two sessions are that's going in there. All right, so kind of on that, we are just a couple minutes ahead, which is great. And then we will set up the breakouts. All right, if you have any questions, Natalie's here to support.
All right, thank you so much, Doug and Michelle. So I'm going to open up the breakout rooms now, and you should see the options to join room 1 or room 2 right now popping up on your screen, and feel free to select the room of your choice. If you're having any issues, please go ahead and type into the chat box which breakout room you'd like to join, and I can go ahead and add you to that breakout room. So you can just type number 1 or number 2, and I'll go ahead and put you there. And just give me a minute to do that so I can get to everybody.
Let's see.
If anyone remaining in this session would like to go to a breakout room and is having issues, please let me know, and I can do my best to move you there. Thanks. Hi, Leslie. Thank you for joining. We just went into breakout rooms. The first breakout room is on transitioning to personalized competency-based education, and the second one is on student data. So if you want me to put you in either one of those breakout rooms, I'd be happy to.
Okay, could I go into the second one, please?
Sure, the one on student data?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yep, hang tight and I will send you there right now.
Thank you so much. Sorry for being late.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for joining. We just went into breakout rooms, and there's one breakout room on transitioning to personalized competency-based education, and there's another one on student data. So if you want to jump into either of these breakout rooms, I can go ahead and assign you if either one of those sound interesting to you.
They both do. Thanks. I'm sorry that I was late. I got stuck in something. If so whichever one you put me in would be great.
Are you sure you don't have a preference?
Preparing for. How's that?
All right. I will send you there shortly.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi there, Lisa. I see you just joined. We are in breakout rooms right now. There is one breakout room that's focused on transitioning to personalized competency-based education, and there's another one that's about student data. So if you want me to go ahead and add you to one of those breakout sessions, I'd be more than happy to.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do transitions.
Okay, perfect. I will send you there momentarily. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Julie. I saw you just joined. We are actually in breakout rooms right now. There's one that's focused on transitioning to personalized competency-based education, and there's another one that's on student data. So if you would like, I'd be happy to add you to one of those breakout rooms. If not, we'll be rejoining here in about 7 to 8 minutes.
I'll pop into another session. No, nothing personal. I had another meeting that just got over, and so I'm just popping in. So
No problem. Totally understand.
thanks.
Yep. Doug and Michelle, it looks like everyone is back from their breakout room, so I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. So I hope everyone had a good session. It's a lot of information in a short period of time. We do understand that, but it's just to kind of get you thinking about some of the components that are there. So really what we want to do now is just set up the next sessions that we're going to do. And we're going to be addressing really chapters 4, 5, and 6 that's there. So the horizontal and vertical I'll be taking, and then Michelle will be talking about implementation with that. Again, just to let you know, in your choices, group number 1 is going to be implementing with standalone classroom, and breakout number 2 is going to be horizontal and vertical scheduling, just to show you a few examples. And so Michelle can just give you a little insight into her session.
So my session deals with you may be in an area that maybe you want to experiment. You're a classroom teacher and you're curious about trying different things. Maybe it's not something that your district or your particular school maybe they're not moving down that implementation pathway yet. But it may be that you have some colleagues who are also interested. So there may be some level of collaboration, but generally speaking, it's not like a system-wide change that's happening. It's just something that you really want to start dabbling in a little bit in your classroom. And so we'll just talk about some different ideas and some different components, and what you could be doing in your physical environment, what you could be doing with your learning pathways, that sort of thing.
All right, so that's going to be number 1. So if you have your choices, that'll be breakout group number 1. And then breakout group number 2 is going to be horizontal and vertical scheduling. So there's 2 approaches that we kind of take when it comes to tackling this process. And so I'm basically just going to show some kind of perfect scenario ones and then some more realistic ones, and then talk about how those numbers of students got placed in those actual schedules. So kind of with that being said, here's the protocol. Just remember that group number 1 is the standalone classroom, and group number 2 is horizontal vertical scheduling that's there. So with that being said, Natalie, we can start up the next, I'm just checking the chat. We can start up the next breakout.
All right, great. So you should see a pop-up on your screen that says breakout rooms. And if you hover over next to the room that you want to join, you should see a button that says join. If you're having trouble locating that, just type in the chat where you'd like me to place you and give me a couple minutes to get everybody where they want to go. Doug and Michelle, it looks like everyone has found their way back to the main room here. So back to you.
All right.
I don't know about
Okay.
you, Doug, but I was speed talking through that. Apologies, everybody. I was like, I couldn't even control myself.
Yeah, 20 minutes is not a lot of time. But as you can see, we're the types of teachers that have a lot of content in a day. We don't have downtime when it comes to this and working through it. So kind of with that being said, as you can see, this is a potentially big topic, big enough to write a book on kind of idea. So, with that being said, we've tried to lay it out in an appropriate, understandable manner so that you can kind of take those nuggets and work with what you want. We try to address a lot of the variables that you're dealing with in working through this, and also the best approaches for schools from the traditional system that want to move towards it, or your already standards-based reporting moving towards it. So trying to have different entry points and working through that. So again, why did we write this? Because we want to support our students so that they can learn at their appropriate pace. Michelle and I are, opposites attract when it comes to education, because she was that stellar student that was being held back, and have to reteach things, where I was the kid that was like, what, dyslexic, couldn't read and being dragged along and hated school. So we're kind of coming at it from both sides of this, and it fits all the students' needs, being able to do this. It doesn't focus on the teacher pace. That's a big part of this. It's about what the students need that's there. And a byproduct of this is the teachers have a more focused group of students to teach. It's unbelievable to be able to teach a group of kids that actually are ready for what you're teaching. It sounds insane that that's a comment that we have to kind of make, but it is absolutely amazing when that occurs with our students that's there. So kind of with that being said, we do have a session tomorrow. It's from 1:30 to 2:30. We're going to be doing the overview, but we're going to be addressing more of like we hit some special education components in my breakouts. We're going to be talking about like transfer students and, students working in multiple levels and things like that, kind of those other variables to think about. That's going to be kind of the emphasis. There's going to be some networking opportunities. So we're going to actually send everybody out randomly to just meet and talk and check in. We're going to do a poll and see where everybody's at that's there. So we're going to be able to do those parts for tomorrow's session. So I'm not going to get too heavy into data. Michelle's not going to get too heavy into the content that she addressed today, but we're going to try to hit kind of more of chapter 3. Is what it works out to be. And so here's our contact information. We love to talk shop. I mean, it's been since 2004. We've been doing this just nonstop, and we still wake up on Saturday mornings and drink coffee and talk about this stuff
over a cup of coffee every day.
So we love this information that's there. And so you can access Marzano Resources website. You can get the book. You can go to Amazon if you're interested in the book. But there's also like professional development services that we provide virtually or on site to support you in this movement. So leadership groups coming in and just talking shop and kind of mapping things out and planning. Those are things that we can provide. So you can go to Marzano Resources for that. And so kind of with that being said, this is the last slide. So Natalie, it's all up to you, yours for the survey.
Thank you both, Michelle, Doug. Everyone join me in thanking our wonderful esteemed authors today. That was a terrific session. We're very grateful for
And
you
thank
guys.
everybody out there for all you're doing. I mean, it's such a tough climate. You're up against so many things, and your dedication and continued perseverance and support for children is just, it's amazing. And we thank you for all you're doing for kids.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So thanks to everyone for participating in this session. If you can just take 1 minute and complete our very brief survey, it's in the chat box for you. It's just 3 questions, super short. We really do value your feedback. So we'd appreciate it. And with that, we can go ahead and close this session. We hope to see you all at the Aurora Institute Symposium tomorrow morning, beginning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. With another keynote session. So thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.